Hello, everyone. This is the video for episode 183 of the Matters of Faith podcast. I'm sharing this one on live stream, and then, of course, the video will be available various places because the subject kind of translates over from not just the spiritual but into other areas of life as you're trying to succeed. So I thought it might be of use to various people who might be listening in. I'll be doing the audio recording stuff in addition to the stream and all that, and have different graphics going up and that kind of thing. So we have a little experiment going here to see how well this works with the additional pieces in it, and we'll see how that plays out. So I'm going to get ready to go through the process of introducing the show and recording. So anybody watching the video, I appreciate you dropping in. Hopefully it's going the way I expect it to. You have found the Matters of Faith podcast on Project Entertainment Network with your host, Jay Wilburn. This is episode 183, When Your Efforts Aren't Working Yet. Now, hopefully that word yet is very important, and it means that the possibility is there that you will succeed, and we'll talk about that. The scripture we're going to be going from is 1 Corinthians 9, verses 24 through 27, but I think this will probably apply a number of different places as well. During this episode, I'm live streaming at this moment on Twitch as I'm recording this for the audio version of the podcast, the regular version of it. And I'm using some different graphics and that type of thing on the video. So I'm going to be kind of operating two machines, and we'll see how well it works out. If there's any lags in my speaking pattern, it may be me trying to figure out what I'm clicking and where to go. It could just be that my brain isn't working possibly, which has nothing to do with the equipment here in front of me. Before we get into all that, I want to remind everyone that there's advertising opportunities here on the Matters of Faith podcast and on Project Entertainment Network with all the many shows that are there. You can go to projectentertainmentnetwork.com and contact Armand Rosamalia, and he can direct you to shows that might work for you. As the host of the Matters of Faith podcast, I would love to share your passions with my audience, both on the audio version of the podcast and on the videos that'll be up around the internet, on YouTube, on Twitch, and elsewhere. So that's a pretty wide spread for an ad. If you'd like to talk to me about it, the email for the podcast is mattersoffaith@jwilburn.com. If you are watching this on the video, that's on the bottom of the screen there. So Matters of Faith, MattersOfFaith @jwilburn.com. Jay Wilburn spelled out JayWilburn.com. So you can contact me there about advertising. You can also send questions for the show there. And of course, if people started listening on the live stream, then they could ask questions directly of the show. And we could even answer them live here on the air, so we might do that. But if you have a question that you want to discuss that's related to faith or just life in general, you can email that question to me, and we will address it on a future show. And those are always fun shows when we get a good pile of questions going. All right. And now we'll get into the rest of the episode. This is the Matters of Faith podcast on Project Entertainment Network with your host, Jay Wilburn. This is episode 183, and we're talking about when your efforts aren't working yet. Hopefully, something in this will help you out as you're sort of maybe struggling to find success, and you're at a point where you haven't experienced it yet, but you're hoping that your efforts pay off, and there may be a temptation to quit. Just to get us going, we'll look at the scripture, 1 Corinthians 9, 24 through 27. This scripture is usually used in discussions involving self-discipline, and there are a number of verses that kind of deal with this topic, but we'll focus in on one and then kind of expand out from it. So again, 1 Corinthians 9, verses 24 through 27. If you're watching on video, it's up on the screen now. We're using the New International Version. Do you not know that in a race all runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. Now, there are a lot of verses that use running a race as a metaphor. So there's a wide range of them that I could have picked from different passages that basically kind of wrap around that same idea of there's some sort of striving that goes before you reach the finish. This idea of sticking with it, self discipline, and working with intention. Now, there are deeper spiritual significance to the working for eternal things and not temporary things, and there's ideas about this being specifically about spreading the gospel and that sort of thing. But I think the principles can be applied more broadly. So even if you come from a different spiritual background than I do, I think these ideas of striving for success and going through adversity will apply more broadly. So there's applications to spiritual life, but also non-spiritual pursuits of really any effort of striving for success. There's something about going at something and not quitting before you're done, or putting in the effort to actually win. Now, I think there's that idea that only one person gets the prize, so you're not just competing against yourself, but competing against others, and that's true of many things in a broad sense. But I also think that in many of our pursuits, it's not a one or nothing proposition. So a team can win, and there can be multiple winners of different levels depending on what you're going after. So it's not a situation of I have to defeat every other person around me, but it is a situation of to compete as if to win. So when you're striving after some kind of success, you go after it as if you want to win it. But you have to understand what you don't have in your hands yet. So that thing you're going for, whatever that vision or that goal is, you want to keep going after it anyway, even though you don't already hold it. It helps to know your why. So why are you striving for this thing? Why does it matter? What's your reason for working this hard? That goes to your goal, both long-term goals and short-term goals that lead you to a particular vision. And is it worthy enough to keep you going? So some of that question is of yourself personally, and then some of that questions of about the goal more generally. Is it a worthwhile goal in whatever measure you are seeking to go after that? Now, one thing that we often talk about when we get into these sorts of ideas is that don't quit, never quit kind of thing. But I think there is some discernment that goes into that. Sometimes you have to make choices about what is really important to you, and then what are some of the minor things that either lead you to that hinder you from it, or things peripheral to that maybe you do need to quit. So I think there's a concept that gets overlooked often, and that's quitting the right things. If you don't want to quit on your major goal, your purpose, the thing that you are striving for in life, whether it's spiritual or whether it's personal, professional, whatever it is, often there are things that you are doing that are taking up your time that may be something that needs to be quit. The art of quitting is a really underappreciated aspect or of succeeding. So if you quit the right things, if you quit the things that you shouldn't be doing, then there's a certain freedom that comes with that. Now, again, this doesn't necessarily mean sinful things or things that are wrong. I guess we should quit those too. But I'm speaking more generally about the idea of like things that aren't actually helping you get to your goal. So again, here's where the discernment comes in, because this is where you would face the temptation. Okay, I'm going after this. This is what I want to do. My efforts aren't producing anything. So maybe this is the thing not taking me to my goal. And that can be right. It may be more an idea of tactics at that point. But sometimes that goal is the thing you need to hold on to, and other things need to be let go. We quit on our dreams often because we don't quit all these other things that are in the way. So we got to prioritize and see what has to go for us to keep going in what we really want. Sometimes we stick to obligations out of a sense of duty. So we've agreed to do something because someone has nagged us into it, or because we feel like, well, either I'm a Christian, I should be doing this, I'm a part of this community, I should be helping this way, I want to be a good person, so I should be helping with these causes. The problem is, of course, that the world is full of causes, and all of them can be worthy, But the thing is, they're not all right for you. You may not be the person that needs to be doing that one thing, and you doing it may be keeping you from that thing that you possibly should be doing. Now, also, we get into that sense of obligation and we'll keep doing something long after we should have quit it. That maybe it's someone else's turn to step in, but we just continue to go through the motions. Certain peripheral things in our lives take up all our time and become part of the rut that keeps us from moving forward. So if I'm stuck in a pattern, I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. Often it might be all these little extra things that I've taken on in my life that do not directly relate to what I'm trying to accomplish. That's not to say you have to quit everything, but you should give yourself permission to quit some things. If there's something really important that you need to focus all your effort on, you may have to say no to more things. People and organizations tend to keep adding on new things, but fail to stop doing all the old things in order to make room for the energy and time to pursue what is new. Now, sometimes it's the new thing you don't need to be doing. It's getting in the way of what's working or what you should be sticking with. But very often, a new program, a new idea, a new whatever comes along, and we jump on board with it, but we never think, okay, I already feel overwhelmed with the 5, 6, 700 things I'm already doing. So if I add another big thing that's going to be my next big thing, if it doesn't fit naturally into what's already going on, to where it either connects things, makes them easy, or whatever it is, then it's just a new thing. It's an additional thing. And it's going to take up a lot of time, especially in the beginning. So if you can't find anything that you need to quit, then I don't know where you expect to find this new time that's going to be taken up by these other things. And so we do need to analyze, is the new thing we're going to do what needs to happen? And if so, what can I give up that makes room for that? Organizations very rarely do that, and unfortunately, individuals don't do it as often as we need to. So if you're taking on one big new thing, you probably should find at least 1, 2, 3 other smaller things or older things or things that aren't producing anymore that need to be set aside. The important thing, though, is that you don't set aside your purpose or your vision, that big goal that you're going after. That's what you're about, essentially. Now, sometimes you may not know. You may not know your purpose. You may not know what you're going after. But one of the best ways to get there is to get out and start practicing something. If at nothing else, that thing that you're trying, you can find out, well, this isn't for me. And you can set that aside and gradually over time, sometimes through process of elimination, but sometimes through experiencing, okay, this is something I care about. This is something I'm good at. This is something that fulfills me. When you find those things, then you kind of narrow down, okay, this seems to be what I'm after. None of this other stuff gives me any joy, or even if I'm good at it, I don't like it. And so you can set aside other things. Those are the things you need to quit for the thing that matters to you. So if you've been working on this old thing that you took on while you were trying to find your way, and you find that thing, there'll be people that are still about that. That's their purpose. That old thing that they're a part of, and that they brought you in on. It's their life's purpose, and they want you to continue to help them achieve it. And they may not even understand that it's time for you to move on. But if you've discovered what you think you want, or you at least want to pursue it and see if it's right, you might have to take that old thing that was part of your practice and say, I have something else that I'm focusing in on. I'm going to have to let that go. There could be hurt feelings. There could be people that don't understand. But if what you want to go after is important enough to you, you need to be willing to tell people, okay, the answer is no. We do need to say no to good things that aren't meant for us. Quit something before it traps you and steals your time. So again, part of the confusion sometimes is we think, okay, the things we need to say no to are things that are bad, but sometimes we have to say no to things that are good. They may be good, but just not for us. And so in those moments, you have to analyze, okay, this thing is good, but is it right? Is it the thing that I should be doing, or is there somebody else out there? Don't ever think that, well, I'm the only person that can do this. If I don't do it, no one will do it. If it's meant to be done, there is somebody else out there meant to do it. Even if you're meant to do it and you don't step up, there's somebody else out there that will in your place. And so We have to look at good things that don't align with our purpose, and especially once you start to narrow down what that is, and you have to be able to say to those good things, I understand this is a worthy cause, I understand that it matters, but I can't take this on in a meaningful way because it doesn't align with what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is important as well. So this is meant for somebody else, and I'm going to have to say no to it. Say no to things that don't serve your individual purpose and pursuits any longer. There's other types of fear that kind of get in the way of what we want to go after in life. And often that's the risk of failure. But more specifically, it's probably the fear of the risk of failure. There are more losers than winners in a race. Now, I don't mean loser in an insulting sense. I mean that there are more people who fail at a particular thing than there are people who win at it. And that doesn't mean that it's too hard for you. That doesn't mean that you should be afraid, but it does mean that either they didn't put in the effort, they were off track, they let themselves get dragged down by other things, it wasn't meant for them, they just didn't have the determination. They didn't focus on what they needed to do. They made the wrong choices. There's an endless list of things that can lead to people losing instead of winning, and there's even more people who never try. And I titled this little section "Risk of Failure," but it may actually be closer to the fear of the risk of failure. Um, that fear can very much get in the way of what we're going after in life, and it's quite unfortunate. It's the thing that sort of keeps us from ever starting, or that halts us right about that time that we need to be making next level decisions, and that we should get over that fear, even if there's a good chance it could happen, even if failure is arguably the most likely outcome of you pursuing a particular dream that seems so far fetched, but you kind of believe it's for you. Even in a situation like that, it's worth the try. There's something beautiful about a person who pursues a dream against all odds, even when it doesn't come through or it hasn't come through yet, and they keep at it. That journey is powerful, it's brave, and it carries its own rewards. It changes a person in significant ways, and it changes the flavor of life, and it inspires others. The worst that can happen if you go after your dreams is you fail miserably and have to start over. But that can happen anyway in a passionless life where your dreams died without you even trying. So people who never pursue their dreams, who stick with the dead end job or whatever it is, they can fail too. That can be pulled right out from under them, and then in addition to never pursuing their dreams, they lost the safe path that they thought was there. But you might make it. You might. Some people do, and it happens in large part because those people refuse to quit during that time when their efforts weren't paying off yet. They saw something coming in the future, and they kept at it. So it's quite significant to stand up to that risk of failure. Almost everything that's worth pursuing in life involves some kind of leap of faith. You can take that spiritually, or you can take that as a broader metaphor. Some sort of leap that comes in to finding success, going before the path is clear, pursuing your goals even when the odds are against you and everyone around you is telling you it's a stupid idea. There's always success on the other side of all that stuff. Now, again, you may still fail, but if you're afraid of it, then you probably will give up, and then that will be the failure. The person who continues to defy failure and keep at it is the most likely to have success. And in the end, if they fight and fight and fight for something and it doesn't come through, there's still some reward. There's still some growth that comes through that process that may help them, whether they move on to something else or whether that's their life story, this constant pursuit for better things that may not have manifested in exactly the way they thought it was going to. Holding on to your vision is fairly important. And that idea of vision is interesting in the sense that we may be talking about something you can't see yet. It's more envisioning, this idea of being able to picture something that you can't actually physically see yet. And oftentimes that's the difference between success and failure. You have to be able to see it. You have to be able to see it even before it's there. You have to be able to imagine the possibility of it. And the more vivid your imagination is, the more far-fetched that goal may seem, may be what drives you to be able to accomplish more than other people are, or definitely more than what people think you're capable of. In addition to that vision, you have your goals, which are sort of the maybe the long-term goals that are going to help you get to that vision that you see, but then also short-term goals, maybe even daily goals that keep you moving forward during this time when your efforts haven't paid off yet. But it adds up to that, to the weeks and months and in yearly goals, and then you're meeting your long-term goals and you're setting new goals, and then you're slowly manifesting that vision. But if you can't see it, if you can't imagine it, if you don't have a picture of what you're going for, even if the future completely blows your picture away, as it often does, many times in good ways, great ways, then you're not going to be able to weather all those storms, because it's going to be the vision that keeps you going when the evidence is not there yet. That, well, I don't know if this path is taking me anywhere, or the reward seems small at this point, and I don't know if I'm getting where I need to go. It's that something in front of you that has to encourage you forward when you're at your lowest, and giving up seems like the best option. Rattling papers, that's how you know a podcast is professional. In terms of vision, it has to be big enough. Now, goals, when you make daily goals, they need to be realistic. You don't need to be setting yourself up for failure all the time. But your long-term goals, and then especially your vision, has to be big. If it's too small, the pursuits to get there are going to be small. The effort is going to be small, and that's as far as you're going to get. You kind of have to imagine yourself beyond your abilities so that you do strive further and go harder. That's when you're willing to beat your life into shape. That idea of striking my body and making it my servant. That's where the self-discipline comes in. Because that person that can get up in the morning, even though they're going to be plodding along in this particular path that hasn't paid off all the rewards yet, you have to be willing to go after it. It has to be big enough that you're willing to change yourself for it. It has to be big enough that you're willing to sacrifice for it. That you're going to put off certain short-term rewards so that you can go for longer-term rewards. You're going to cut TV time. You're going to put in more practice when you could be doing something that's fun, or even just letting yourself sleep in or whatever. It's that thing that you need to be willing to get up early for or stay up late for. I don't know if doing both all the time is a good idea, but sometimes it requires something more when you're working when other people have given up for the day. That there's something to that. The thing you're willing to work for even when you're tired, the thing you're willing to work for after you've been sick and you're having to get back into stride. You're willing to struggle for it for years sometimes, and that's where the big vision needs to be. It has to matter to you. The vision has to be something you care about that much, and it has to connect to your life's purpose. Now, again, these discussions of life purpose sometimes are they sometimes run into trouble with people that haven't figured out what it is. But you got to find that thing that's worthwhile to you. And what is the thing that it has to be worth it to you? So what is that thing? And like I said, sometimes you have to discover it through practice. You have to pursue different things to see, okay, is this it? Is this the thing that I'm meant to go out after? Is it the thing that's worth it for me? And there's really not a lot of people who can answer that for you, other than yourself. You're the one that has to be going after it. You have to get there mentally, and that's really where all the struggle is when it comes to the kind of success that we're talking about. Can you get yourself there in your mind where you're willing to say, every bit of sacrifice that I go through, all these years where my efforts don't seem to be paying off yet, can I stick with it? Can I improve myself? Can I look for the next best practice to add on to this that's going to keep me going forward? Am I willing to get better at it? You got to get there on your own or with the help of like-minded people. Surround yourself with people that are pursuing a similar purpose. They don't have to be doing the same thing as you, but they're going after the same purpose. And they don't necessarily have to be doing exactly what you do the way you're doing it. But if they're on a different path, going after other things, that good thing that's not what you're doing, then it may not be for you. It may not be your thing. And especially if they're not a person that's pursuing anything with the same level of effort you are, they may not be for you. That may not be the person that you need in your life at that point. But when it comes down to it, no matter who you surround yourself in your circle with, hopefully positive people if you really want to be a success, no one else can keep you committed on a daily basis except yourself in the end. If you need other people every single day to lift you up and get you going, then there are going to be days when those people aren't there and you're not going to get going. There has to be something in you. Now, their encouragement can be helpful in getting you there, but you have to reach a point where you've adopted it mentally, where you own it, where the day belongs to you and all the things you want to pursue. No one else can commit that for you. You have to endure it. You have to set aside the discouragement from within you and discouragement from the outside. People who will definitely be there who are trying to drag you down, whether they realize that's what they're doing or not. Only then will the encouragement of others make any difference for you. So if you're willing to not listen to the negative, if you're willing to get up when no one else is there and do that work yourself, when people do encourage you, you can take that in because you've shielded yourself from the negativity that's trying to take you down. You can change tactics as you go along towards your goals, but you have to find the goals that are worth your energy when you have no energy. So when you are completely worn out, this has to be worth putting in more energy that you don't feel like you have. It has to be worth the time when you don't have any spare time, when you feel like there's no more time to do anything else. This vision has to be worth it to you enough that you find more time to put into it one way or the other, whether that's quitting things that aren't helping you, whether that's staying up later, getting up earlier, whether that's putting away sort of the fun things that you might want to do on a day that you're trying to put it aside. It has to be worth your time even when there's no time to spare. And it has to be worth your all even on days when you have nothing left. So this is not to say that you can't get sick. This is not to say that on a particular day you can't rest. Rest is very important and it's underrated. But even on those days when you have nothing left, your goals, your vision needs to be big enough that you're still willing to give your all, even if that all feels like next to nothing. That's a vision that is worth it. That's one that's going to follow through and make something great out of your life. I hope you found this discussion helpful, and I look forward to talking to you all again next week. Okay, we're out on the podcast. Those of you watching on video, I appreciate it. Again, mattersoffaith@jwilburn.com. You see there at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to contact me if you're looking to advertise on a podcast, but more importantly, if you have questions or comments that you would like to discuss on the show, we can do that. And of course, if you catch me on Twitch doing one of these shows, then you can ask questions live and they'll become part of the broadcast itself. But feel free to email me something. I can use your name in the show. I can do it anonymously, which is how we do most of the questions, because often faith-based questions are personal. Thanks for dropping in, man. I appreciate you watching along. So feel free to send the questions in, and they do spur some pretty good discussion, things that I wouldn't normally think about. So whether you're watching this live or in recording, thank you for jumping in, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.